Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clarksville's Political Forum. I'm Van Stokes, and I will be your moderator for today's session. And on behalf of Leadership Clarksville and your Clarksville area Chamber of Commerce, we're glad you could be with us today. This forum is coming to you from the facilities of the Mass Communications Department here on the campus of Austin Peay State University. And it is intended for you, the viewers and the voters, to have an informed choice when you go to the polls to vote on August the 7th. Today we have the opportunity to meet and greet and hear from the candidates who will be on the ballot for the Republican primary and the Tennessee House of Representatives, District number 74. They are, to my left, Mr. Jay Reedy and Mr. Keith Spadba. Now in a moment, they will each have 2 minutes in which to provide opening remarks. Following their introductory comments, we will turn to our panelists for questions. Joining us once again on my right today is the editor, business editor, and county government writer for the Leaf Chronicle, Mr. Jimmy Settle. From 5-Star Radio and ClarksvilleNow.com, Mr. Lee Irwin. And the executive director of Progressive Directions and the president-elect of Civitan International, Mr. Jay Albertia. Now in a moment, they will each have 2 minutes in which to present opening comments. Then we go to the questions. At the conclusion of the questions, each candidate will have 2 minutes in which to provide closing comments. During the questions, the candidates will have 1 minute to provide responses to each of the questions. Our timekeeper for this session is Ms. Elena Stubbs. The Tennessee House of Representatives annually contends with ongoing budget issues that are affected by these times of economic uncertainty and growth. Statewide economic growth, safety, transportation, health care, education, and the welfare of the state are just a few of the areas that receive legislative attention in the Tennessee House of Representatives. This term is for 2 years. That said, let's go to our introductory comments. We will hear first from Mr. Jay Reedy.
Greetings. My name is Jay Reedy, as stated, and I am from Erin, Tennessee, which puts me in Houston County, right in the middle of District 74. I have served our country as an enlisted soldier as well as a commissioned officer, and actually it was right here at Austin Peay in 1988 is where I received my commission. With that, I do have family that have attended, and I have a son that will be attending Austin Peay this fall. With that, I am a business owner, a cattle farmer, as well as my wife, 3 kids. We do attend the Church of Erin Church of Christ, very active in our community with numerous youth programs. In my past, you may have known me because I used to be the store manager at Rural King. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have opening comments from Mr. Keith Spadba.
I would like to thank the panel and the chamber for this opportunity. I have been a resident of Montgomery County since 1989. I presently work as an instructor at North Central Institute. I served 8 years in the Army at Fort Campbell. I'm a small business owner as well as an instructor dealing in aviation, and I look forward to serving the people of the 74th District.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for those opening comments. We turn now to our distinguished panel. We'll begin our questions today with Mr. Jimmy Settle. The question will be addressed first to Mr. Jay Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Reedy. Both of you have made introductory remarks. Given that, I would like to ask you if you could please pinpoint and describe those aspects of yourself that you feel uniquely qualify you for the nomination to the 74th State House District seat compared to your opponent.
I would say as a business owner and a cattle farmer, with that, there is a love in my heart for agriculture, and so there's a lot of agriculture opportunities that can take place here in Tennessee. And in my opponent, in comparison, that's probably my strongest background. As well as a business owner, I own Houston County Lock and Key, which I do serve Houston County, Humphreys County, and Montgomery County. And I find at times that with that, trying to make a budget payroll gets tough. Therefore, I have done it for 11 years now. Thank you.
Mr. Svadba.
I think that what uniquely qualifies me for this position is I have worked for DynCorp International at Fort Campbell. For 4 years, I was in charge of a training detachment with the 160th, putting together budgets, staying within budgets, and bringing contracts in on time. Also as a educator, I think I understand the needs of our local school district, as well as the needs of the post-secondary, which is the school I teach at is post-secondary.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee Irwin, your question goes to Mr. Svadba.
Mr. Svadba, tell me how, if elected, how would you define your role as a representative for the 74th District and serving its citizens?
I think the main goal would be to bring more jobs to the district. The last week, the unemployment figures came out, and while Montgomery County is very well positioned with jobs and job growth, both Houston and Humphreys County are above average for the state and the nation. Their average was over 9%. So their focus must be the jobs in their area to bring the jobs to their citizens.
Mr. Reedy.
It's very tough because of the size of District 74. It's very large. You really have to travel to cover the different counties as well as the cities. And yes, unemployment is 9.9% in Houston County, 8.4% down in Humphreys County, whereas opposed to Montgomery County, 7.4%. What I see that we could do and take place as far as jobs in Houston County is we'll have an overflow. When we create jobs there, they're going to benefit in Humphreys County as well as Montgomery County. And my concern is our youth that are not getting that employment history in their background that'll take them to newer jobs, further jobs, and get away from just the entry-level jobs that you would see at fast food restaurants.
Mr. Albertia, your question goes to Mr. Reedy.
Mr. Reedy, you've both now spoken about unemployment, but what are the other major issues that you see facing the next legislative term at the State House?
The biggest crisis that I see right now, and of course it's going back to our youth, is Common Core. I don't care anything for Common Core. I was not a big fan of No Child Left Behind. I do think that we as a state, the state of Tennessee, we've got very good educators in place that could decide what's best for our children. What's best for Houston County, what's best for Montgomery County wouldn't be the same as what's taking place in Chicago or California or any of those places. So what I would like to do is see an overhaul of the Common Core idea being pushed on to us by the federal government for the betterment of not only our kids, the families that support them in their endeavors.
Mr. Svadba.
I agree. Common Core does need to be done away with. It is a symptom of another federal program, Race to the Top, where our school districts are chasing the federal grant money rather than looking at the particular problems. The way to solve the problem with our education is to get the teachers involved. The teachers know what they need in their particular school. Not a bureaucrat in Washington or even in Nashville. I would like to see more control come back to the schools to get the teachers and the parents involved in solving the problems within the school.
Mr. Jimmy Settle, we come back to you. Your question goes to Mr. Svadba.
Mr. Svadba, earlier this year, the Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Transportation came to Clarksville, spoke to the Regional Planning Commission here, and painted a pretty bleak picture, to be quite honest, about how his department is strapped for funding. And you ask anyone in this community, and they'll tell you that one of our biggest problems on the state level is an inadequate road system, inadequate highways to support the growth that we're experiencing. How do we get a bigger piece of the pie of highway funding for the Montgomery County area amid all the growth we're experiencing?
I think there's two ways to approach it. One, the growth of Montgomery County, we're putting a bigger and bigger chunk of money into the state fund, which we need to get a little bit higher return. But also, I think what we can do as the county grows and our share of the tax increase, sales tax increases, I would like to see a portion of the sales tax be set aside, of the increase, no, not the sales tax itself, but a portion of the increase set aside for infrastructure programs.
Mr. Reedy?
As a business owner, and this is going to sound crazy, I feel more like a tax collector than a business owner. And with that, all of the taxes that I collect from customers, I see what I have to send to Nashville, and it's unfortunate in really the small communities, I don't see those dollar bills coming back to us. So I don't totally understand the system, how we request our money to come back to us, but that's where I see different purse strings are being pulled in different directions of the state that I think that we need to get back to District 74. Not just Montgomery County, Houston County, as well as Humphreys County, but that's exactly right. Out here campaigning and driving some of the roads in Montgomery County, it's almost dangerous at times that there needs to be something done.
Mr. Lee Irwin, your question goes to Mr. Reedy.
Mr. Reedy, Jimmy just mentioned funding about roads. What about the importance of education? Funding of education is an issue in many communities throughout the 74th District as well as the state. What in particular do you think are the issues relating to funding of education, and what solutions do you hope to propose for that?
With that funding that comes from the state, first I want to step back and say, when the creation of the Department of Education back in 1979, we see a lot of dollars, I think, that go to our federal government that is wasted because we don't get to keep it here at home. And if we could keep those dollar bills, I run some numbers and the statistics on what we sent out of our state for the Department of Education, thinking if we could just have, some way grasp that, bring it back to our counties, our districts, we could better utilize those funds. With that, I know my wife is a teacher at the Houston County High School, as well as my kids going in the district, and it's tough providing all their needs, and many times it's us, the parents, that provide for our kids' textbooks. We have the fundraisers that also help the school systems out. But it is tough. It's education dollars. We need to get them back somehow, some way.
Mr. Svadba.
I think there's several different approaches that can be made for education. One, get the people that work within the school districts to have some input to become more efficient. And that not only the teachers, but the staff people, the janitors, the people that work in the transportation departments, let them make suggestions to become more efficient. It's a business model that many of the big businesses are using. Another thing we can do is work with our federal government, not only for more money from the Department of Education, but also to fully fund the impact money for the military here in Montgomery County that is not fully funded.
Mr. Albertia, you have the next question, and it goes to Mr. Svadba.
Mr. Svadba, there's been a lot of talk recently in many state houses talking about gay marriage legislation. If that was to be brought in front of the floor of the Tennessee State House and you were elected, what would your position be?
I think that marriage itself is between a man and a woman, and would not support anything that would change that law.
Mr. Reedy.
Well, in my belief in reading the Bible, believing in God, it speaks of the sins that are all around us. And with that, if somebody wants that lifestyle, hey, that's great, but let's not force it on other people. So in my belief, I'm against calling it marriage. It's not gay marriage. You could call it a civil union, what you may, but I oppose it. It is so wrong on so many levels that for a person, this is my belief, that if you read the Bible, I mean, you just don't kind of go kill some people, or you just don't kind of steal a little bit here. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong.
Thank you very much. Moving right along, Jimmy Settle, we come back to you. Your question goes to Mr. Jay Reedy.
Thank you. Mr. Reedy, earlier today in forums, we heard from some judicial candidates and for circuit court, and they talked about how the legislature sets sentencing guidelines for violent crime offenders, and that, frankly, those sentencing guidelines at times are inadequate to match the crimes. So basically, they're saying they blame the legislature for the problem. What is your reaction to that, and how would you deal with that if you were sitting in the Tennessee House?
With that, they're so correct. The judicial system has got a tough job. And with that, that's right. Their job interpreting the law, understanding how it needs maybe to be enforced. And with that, the legislators, we as the State House have to come together and understand what we're imposing on we the people that live in our state, beautiful state, Tennessee. So with that, we do need to work together. We need to come to terms on what we consider a violent crime. There's a lot of talk, and it's about the marijuana bills, and it's not that violent of a crime to be caught with it, and they should be let go. And there are a lot of concerns. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to have to face. If it's not me, it's my competitor. It's the whole state. We the people need to stand up, speak out, and tell our legislators what we believe in, what we think should be done.
Mr. Svadba.
The thing on crime, we do have a major problem there. We have seen an increase in the use of heroin, and we do need to address that. The punishment does need to fit the crime, and we need to try to reduce that crime first and foremost, and that is basically getting jobs in here, getting the people educated for those jobs so that they're not doing the crime, try to get them away from the drugs, the gangs, and that lifestyle.
You are watching Clarksville's Political Forum. We are meeting with candidates in the Republican primary for the Tennessee House of Representatives, District number 74, Mr. Jay Reedy and Mr. Keith Svadba. Let's go back to our panelists now. We go to Lee Irwin. You have your question for Mr. Svadba, please.
Mr. Svadba, we've talked about the size of the 74th district. Now, how do you propose to stay connected with the citizens of your district, say to increase their involvement in the planning for the district's future, for the state's future?
Well, one thing I have already started looking at, should I win the election both in August and in November, the state legislatures are authorized a district office, and that is something that I have not seen happen in any of the districts that I have looked at. And I would open up a district office in Erin, because Erin is pretty much the center of the district, and try to hold more town hall meetings. This is something that I don't think the representatives do enough of.
Mr. Reedy?
It is tough. It is tough. If you've ever driven from Clarksville all the way down to Waverly, Tennessee, you put some miles on the car. And with that, as I had mentioned, I am the owner of Houston County Lock and Key, and the main area that I do cover is all of Houston County, Humphreys County, so I'm out in it daily. And what was interesting and got me to where I am right now was all the time meeting people face to face, and I can't help but talk politics, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it was interesting, supporters that come out, and I said, hey, we need somebody in our state house that has got our concern at heart. And we're talking about Humphreys County, where the incumbent lives. And with that, I garnered the support. With that, as far as the cattle business, my kids are involved in the 4-H program, and every year we're up here for the Better Beef Show 4-H program, great program. We'll be back here in a couple of weeks, and getting to meet with these farmers, and especially the time I spent at Rural King, I built relationships in Montgomery County, understanding what our needs are.
Thank you very much. Mr. J. Alberti, your last question will go to Mr. Reedy.
Mr. Reedy, let's just say the election is over and you've won the seat. What would be the first bill you would sponsor as being a newly elected House member?
I am glad that you asked. With that, back in 2006, we did get Phil Bredesen, the governor at that time, to sign a bill, and it was the Tennessee locksmith licensing law. With that, a lot of people don't know about locksmiths, that you must be licensed in the state, and with that, we have a problem. They say the law is there, there's no teeth in it, there's 4 people across the state that's out enforcing it, it's not being enforced. With that, people really need to become educated about the locksmith law. But probably even more than that, I'm still, with a wife as an educator, Common Core, we've got to do something because it's affecting our kids now.
Mr. Svadba.
The first bill that I would submit would be an education bill to repeal the Common Core, to get away from the race to the top money, to return power back to the local school districts, to let them fix their problems.
Mr. Jimmy Settle, you have the final question to our candidates, and it goes to Mr. Keith Svadba.
Mr. Svadba, we've talked a little bit about secondary education. I want to ask a question, if I may, since we're on a higher education campus here, about higher education. Very important question here for Austin Peay State University, in fact. This week, in fact, candidates to replace President Tim Hall as president of Austin Peay are being interviewed. And one of the questions they're being consistently asked is for their thoughts on the Governor Haslam's Tennessee Promise program, which you may be familiar with. It's kind of getting mixed reviews, but basically, as you probably are aware, it gives tuition breaks for 2-year community colleges. Some people see that as a detriment to the 4-year institutions like Austin Peay, potentially, at least in the short term. What are your thoughts on Tennessee Promise?
Actually, this last legislative session, as an instructor at a post-secondary school, I was at the legislature actively campaigning to kill this bill. The Tennessee Promise is not a good bill as it is written or as it was passed. It is not only going to take money away from the 4-year colleges, but there are too many students, I'm sure, not only in the technical 2-year colleges, but also in the 4-year colleges that are using it as a form of unemployment. They don't graduate. There needs to be some comeback that if they don't complete the degree, they owe that money back.
Mr. Reedy.
I have a lot of questions for our senators and state house representatives about the Tennessee Promise. And with that is, what is the benchmark? Who did we look at to get this idea? It's not a brand new idea. Was the benchmark Michigan? If it is, bad idea. You know, their legislator done ruled it out, that there is no more the Michigan Promise. And that's confusing. Now, there's lottery scholarships going in North Carolina and West Virginia, what's in Oklahoma. It's a good idea, but not a great idea. What is the exchange? You know, how is it going to be financed? 100% supposed to go from the scholarship to the students, but there's administrative costs. Where is that money going to come from? Let's have more talk about the Tennessee Promise.
Thank you very much. That concludes our segment of questions from our panelists. We have touched different areas. In the area of education, we've talked about the Common Core program. We've talked about higher education. We've talked about roads in the district. We even discussed the issue of gay marriage. And we certainly talked about ways to stay in touch with your constituents. We go now to our closing comments. We will hear them in reverse order from the introductory remarks. We will hear first from Mr. Keith Svadba.
Thank you, sir. I think that I am uniquely qualified to serve the people of the 74th District. My background with the military, as a small business owner, as an educator. These are the three main areas that will affect the people in the district, and I look forward to winning the election and serving the people. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have closing comments from Mr. Jay Reedy.
As once I've heard General Borglund, a local citizen here, make comment, Google me. With that, go online. There's no time for me to tell you everything that I have accomplished or attempt to accomplish in the future. I do want to let you know that I take everybody's opinion at heart. We'll have to decide from there what is best for the whole District 74. Not only that, to let you know that my platform is less government, more local control, and more personal responsibility. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to each of you, Mr. Jay Reedy, Mr. Keith Svadba, for being with us today, sharing your thoughts, your time, your ideas, as you are on the ballot in the Republican primary for the Tennessee House of Representatives, representing District number 74. Most of all, I want to say thank you for being willing to serve when elected, if elected, to this position. I also want to say thanks to our panelists for your questions today. Once again, you did an outstanding job. I don't normally speak for our panelists, but I will say today has been a virtual civics lesson, a civics lesson for each one of us. We've had the opportunity throughout the course of political forums here in Clarksville, just today only. Throughout the course of the day, you will see them at various times, rebroadcast at later dates, to listen to candidates on ballots for the County Commission of Montgomery County, for the Montgomery County Trustee, judges, whether they're circuit court judges, juvenile court judge, the sheriff, the register of deeds. And when you put all of those candidates together and you take our questions from our panelists, you have got a lesson in civics that is worth listening to. We hope it's been a help to you, the viewers and the voters at home. I want to remind you that if you're watching at home, do not forget August the 7th. That is the voting day for the state primary and county general elections. If you're an early voter, the early voting period is open from July the 18th through August the 2nd. You can cast your vote with the Montgomery County Election Commission. They are located at Montgomery Veterans Plaza. That's at 350 Pageant Lane. Once again, our great big thanks to those here at Austin Peay State University and the Mass Communications Department for bringing this broadcast to you. I want to say a special thanks to Leadership Clarksville and your Clarksville area Chamber of Commerce. We hope that you have found it worthwhile, and we hope that you will cast your vote for the candidate of your choice. That concludes our Clarksville's Political Forum for today. Until next time, I'm Van Stokes. Thank you for watching.